A client met his banker to discuss opening a restaurant in a busy airport. In us, he found a partner that understood the importance of reaching for the sky. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Mac.
Welcome to Spotcast, episode 20. My name is Tim Mitchell, and I'm in Toronto, Ontario. I'm joined once again by Herman Lopez Jr. in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
And we have Jonathan Kuline over there in Mr. and Mrs. Saga.
Mr. and Mrs.
That's where we keep the Mr. and Mrs. All right. Okay, so as we start off every show, let's do some fact check. So over to you, Jonathan.
Fact check. So only a couple things last time. 358 in to mention the cigarette smoking man, Cancer Man from the X-Files. The actor's name is William B. Davis, and he is a Toronto native.
Ooh.
Go Canada. And 1630, Nick Bakay provided the voice of Salem Saberhagen the cat on the sitcom Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Thank you both very much for making me look that up. And he also reprised his role on the animated series. So he's a two-time Salem Saberhagen the cat.
Yeah, so it was a familiar voice. Was he not in other things? Did he have an IMDb page or something?
I did look at his IMDb page. I don't recall it off the top of my head right now, but it was he was on a sitcom. Let me just look it right back up.
I guess I could do that too while we're talking about it.
Yeah. Let's see. He was on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and he was sort of a bit part actor. He was in lots of little things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. Like that voice was, I don't know if he was doing a voice, so it was supposed to sound familiar, but
right.
Yeah, nothing that would knock your socks off.
Well, let me see if anything knocks, or which guy is this? Here he is, this guy. The redhead. Wow.
King of Queens, a couple episodes of the 70s show. Oh, he did a voice on the Angry Beavers, which is a kids show.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking like it would have to have been before that, because I mean, why would he seem familiar to me?
It said he was on In Living Color.
Maybe. But this is Video Game 98. What year did he do this?
It says he was in the Smelly Car episode of Seinfeld.
Jury Duty. Murphy Brown. No, he's only in one episode of Murphy Brown. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, he seems like just a working actor. He's got lots of credits and lots of different things. I think playing the cat, the cat was his claim to fame. So
yeah, his big break. Yeah, I finally made it. I'm on a sitcom.
Yeah. It's kind of like Bryan Cranston was another one of just those guys out there.
Yeah.
Hustling, working whatever jobs he could do until, I guess, a little bit of a minor, breakout with Malcolm in the Middle, and then of course the giant one with Breaking Bad.
Yep.
So we'll see for Nick Bakay here. Maybe he'll also have a Breaking Bad moment.
Hear that, Vince Gilligan? Nick Bakay, he's your guy.
Yeah, but it's funny. Like I was watching. Of course, Bryan Cranston was on the Electric Dreams episode, and I couldn't help when he was making breakfast for the lady in that show. I couldn't help thinking, Walt's making breakfast, because it's so familiar, right?
Yeah. This apparently is the 10th anniversary of Breaking Bad, if you can believe it or not, 2018.
Yeah, they've been replaying them on the Netflix, I think, or no, maybe
it's
on
on Netflix,
AMC.
But I think maybe AMC might have been showing it again.
Yeah.
It's I think that show's worth it a second watch. It's so good.
Yeah, I wonder how many people are sitting there binging it right now, kind of thing. Weird. All right. Anyway, let's get to our follow-up.
So lots of little tidbits this week. First piece of news: Deadpool 2 has been moved up. So we talked a couple weeks ago about different movies and when they're coming out, things we're looking forward to. I think all three of us were pretty on board for Deadpool 2, especially after such an awesome first one. Mm-hmm. So it was supposed to be June 1st. They moved it up by 2 weeks. So it's coming out on May 18th. They've also, this is Fox, that is the studio behind this. They've also moved a couple other pictures. They've moved The New Mutants. It was supposed to be April 13th. Now it's coming out February 22nd of 2019. And the long delayed Gambit movie that has been in development hell for a few years, Gambit being one of the X-Men, is pushed back from next February to June. Now that movie's been in development hell, as I said, for a couple of years, so I'll believe that one when I see it. Channing Tatum is apparently supposed to be the star of Gambit.
All right.
Channing Tatum as Gambit, huh? The other dude who I also recognized from Wolverine Origins. I can't remember where Gambit came out before. That's right. Yeah, that dude was kind of okay. I guess the quintessential Gambit for me is the look and sound of the voice actor. So the look from the animated series and the sound of the voice actor from the X-Men animated series.
Yeah,
with its
sort of
I guess it's not really racist.
Accent.
It's just very stereotypical Bayou kind of accent.
I wonder if we'll be hearing that from Channing Tatum next year, should this movie finally ever get made. But yeah. Our next bit of news, DC, who is having a very quiet year at the box office this year, only one movie coming out, Aquaman, not till December. They've set a 2019 release date, April 5th, 2019, for their Shazam movie. Zachary Levi is playing the hero.
And the bad guy is the guy from all those Guy Ritchie movies. I just heard his name today.
Mark Strong. Yeah.
Mark Strong, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. I like him a lot. I think he's a great actor.
Am I correct in thinking they were also going to do a Black Adam movie?
They did say a while ago that, and The Rock has been attached to that. Dwayne Johnson's been attached to that for a while. There's sort of persistent rumors going on the internet that he will turn up in this picture, even though, as Tim said, Mark Strong has been cast as the bad guy. So it'd be interesting to see how that turns itself around, or whether they're going to try and connect that to some other DC property at some point, or I don't know. It always seemed a little bit far-fetched they were going to do a Black Adam standalone movie when he's sort of the villain. But
So I always think of Shazam as that black comedian that I met at Macworld one year, but it's not the same guy, right? Like Shazam is the yellow-tighted guy that kind of holds his hand in the air and goes, Shazam! Is that the one?
Red with gold, yeah.
Yeah, from the cartoon bolt on
series,
his chest. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a little kid who is imbued with magic powers and turns into this mighty strong man who's an adult. So it's supposed to be the kid inside the adult body.
Kind of like Ultraman, right?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Billy Batson, I think, is the little kid's character name. And the character that he becomes is technically Captain Marvel, if I'm not mistaken. And Shazam is the wizard, right? That he invokes, who gave him the power, and also the catchphrase he uses to turn himself into Captain Marvel.
Yep. Yeah, it's of course the result of a lawsuit that prevented them from being able to use the name Captain Marvel. Marvel has a very long time not been interested in having them use that name, and so DC finally relented, I assume under penalty of law, a few years ago, and decided to just start using Shazam as the character name, because it was just much easier than getting back into the courts over a character name. Marvel, of course.
Yeah, didn't you guys say there's a Captain Marvel character that's a female?
There is. Well, there was a long-time male character named Captain Marvel, and then he famously died in a comic book in the 80s.
Those comic books are dangerous, man. I don't know why people are in them.
And it died of cancer. It was one of those interesting stories where they decided to kill off a character in a very unconventional way, which that was a real big sort of big turning point in that sort of doing things differently in comic books in the 1980s. But they killed him off, and then years later they gave the moniker to a different character who was Ms. Marvel for a while, and became Captain Marvel, because it was frankly demeaning to have a character named Ms. Marvel.
Yeah. See, now Jaime, now you see why I say you'd never want to play Star Wars Trivia Pursuit with Jonathan. Because he wipes the floor up with you.
Yeah, probably. Right. There's a few people who could get me in comic book trivia from that era, anyways, but not a lot.
Not on this show.
Yeah, not on this show. Another returning show. So we've got a return date for Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels is going to be back on the air later in February, the 24th. Of course,
this is like the second season ending part or something, or
yeah. So this is the second half of their fourth season, and this is down to the last handful of episodes. So as we talked about last week, there's still a lot of internet speculation as to whether they'll go some nasty places, and whether they'll start wiping out characters, and how they're going to set things up for establishing where they are as of Rogue One and A New Hope and everything. So I'm really keen to see that one come back. I think that'll be very cool. I'm looking forward to the ending.
Okay.
Fear the Walking Dead also has a return date. So this is actually their season 4, right, Tim? You're still following along with the show.
Season 4? No, I think it's like 6 or 7.
Well, I'm looking at Entertainment Weekly. Our good friends at Entertainment Weekly say season 4. I think it's
Fear the Walking Dead. Oh, sorry, I'm getting them mixed up with The Walking Dead. Sorry, no, it is season 4. Yep.
Fear the Walking Dead will return on Sunday, April 15th on AMC. And of course, this season will draw, I think, more than a few viewers over from the main show who might have given it up previously because Lenny James is moving over, which is going to be a pretty interesting.
Well, I don't know if that's enough of a draw, to be honest with you, but the or unless people want to see how he ties in. But I mean, from the fans that I've talked to of the Fear of both franchises, most of them are starting to come over to the Fear the Walking Dead because the other one's getting a little tired, and who knows how long they're going to be able to run that one for, right?
Yeah. Speaking of The Walking Dead has been renewed for season 9 because, of course, it was. They was kind of the no-brainer announcement, but they made it formal, so AMC's bringing that back for season 9. be interesting to see who's alive by the end of the season, as they just obviously are killing off characters as they usually do. But yeah, season 9, of course, that was a no-brainer. That The Simpsons is always coming back. So is Walking Dead. Amazon has announced they're renewing The Tick for season 2. I watched the first bit. I haven't watched the second half of season 1, but I watched the first half. It was very funny and very well done. Very
better
weird.
than the weird ABC show or what it was back in the day.
Yeah, I think it was a Fox show, and it's really weird. It's very weird, but it's quite enjoyable. It's very silly and irreverent. Not, I think, for me, is quite a high watermark as the animated show, which was genius, nor the comic book, which is also genius, but it's pretty darn entertaining.
I might have to give that another chance, because I did watch the pilot back whenever Amazon had the pilot season for that, and the pilot seemed watchable, but it didn't hook me, and so I never saw season 1. But it's got your stamp of approval there. Maybe I'll have to give it another chance.
Yeah, again, it's not high art, but it's quite enjoyable. It is. I do have a soft spot for sort of irreverent superhero content. Some of that stuff, as we've established with the DC cinematic universe, takes itself so seriously, and it's nice to see. This is a character who's both nearly invulnerable, super strong, but clearly mentally unstable, and in a very harmless kind of way, not necessarily a deranged kind of way. It's just fun, it's funny, and the characters are having a good time. The concepts are absurdist, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
All right.
And our last little bit, I just thought this was too funny. So in the spirit of taunting the U.S. president, so there was a tweet the other day on Twitter. Sarah Benincasa, who is a screenwriter and an author, she has called earnestly for a journalist to ask Donald Trump his opinion about our nation's relations with Wakanda. Wakanda is, of course, the fictional country from Marvel's Black Panther comics. She has offered a $300 bounty to any journalist who, with a straight face, asks Trump his opinion of the U.S. relations with Wakanda and gets an answer recorded on video.
Right.
I'll double down. I'll throw in another 200. We'll make it an even 500. I think that's worth $200, no problem.
I just want another one of those asshole countries.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
That's not quite. You were pretty close, but you had the right sentiment, I think, for his his precise term.
Yeah.
That was intentional, trust me.
Yeah, but that one definitely has my favorite humorous tweet of the week, because boy, I'd like to hear the answer to that one.
All right. So, and my piece here is a friend of mine. I went to university with a bunch. I went to York University to study fine arts, so I hang out with a lot of Canadian actors and directors and stuff like that who they were just students back then. And my buddy Silvio Oliveira, who now goes by the trade name of Michael A. Miranda, turned up in a TV commercial the other day, and it was so convincing I didn't even recognize him. Usually I see titles and stuff like that and recognize people. He got beat up by Vin Diesel once in a movie. He was in Johnny Mnemonic. He was one of the crazy guys up on the bridge at the beginning of that movie. But yeah, so he turned. Have you seen the commercial for the CPA chartered accountants? And they're talking about CDs and maybe they should go online. And the accountant lady there on the couch says we should go online and charge people subscriptions to listen to our music.
Yes, I have seen that commercial. It's funny.
The guy at the end with the long hair and the goatee who says, "Well, how's that going to sell us CDs?" That's Silvio.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Silvio, he's got quite the 1990s makeup haircut thing going on there. Yeah,
for sure. Anyway, that's him. That's my follow up, and there's a link to the commercial here.
That's cool. Funny. It's a good commercial. It's actually a really good. It's a really good pitch.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I kind of looked at him. I thought, it seems familiar, but yeah, I guess it's been a long time since I've seen him in the flesh, as it were. Nice. Anywho, all right. So in the main show, I have a follow up, but we're gonna put it under the main title. So we're gonna do our traditional spoiler warning for those of you who haven't watched episode. Well, this will be episode 10, or even listened to this show before, I guess, because we've been talking about this for a while. So if you haven't seen episode 11, The Wolf Inside, Star Trek Discovery, here's your fair warning. This is what this show is about. So why are you listening if you haven't seen it yet? Anywho,
don't scare them away. We want them here.
No, hey, come.
We're glad
come
it's your
enjoy
first episode.
our theories.
Sit back and relax. We're going to talk a little Star Trek. Hopefully you watch it.
Well, and the thing about it is like, I can't take claim to some of the theories that we've purported, but we've mentioned some of them, and kudos to Jonathan who hit the nail on the head on one of them for sure. Anyway, so what I'm talking about is an IMDb listing for the actor who plays Voq on Star Trek Discovery, and now they've got his picture. Isn't that Nice. They broke my link. Bad people. Weird. Oh, they've got his picture. That's funny. He had a picture of Volk up until... So I was watching the show, and of course, just before the spoiler went, I thought, like I said, I always have my iPad with me, and I always have IMDb going if I'm watching a TV show, and I figured I'd go and look up the actor Volk and see who he was, just in the scene where the two of them were on the screen together, and Tyler and Volk. And I looked it up, and it's Shazad Latif is his name, right?
Yeah, that's the actual actor's name, but they had a pseudonym in there for quite a while.
Yeah, the pseudonym was his father's name. He mentioned that on After Trek as well. But anyway, his father's name with a picture of Volk, and then no bio, which is totally unusual for IMDb. They always have something. And there was a little trivia note that said that this is a pseudonym, and it's for the actor who purportedly is playing both roles, right? Anyway, so that's a spoiler. Well, spoiler if you don't know. If you watched the last episode, you know this already. But this was posted. I should have taken a screenshot of it before, and now they've updated it with his actual real name. So that's not fair. Why wouldn't they put his actual bio on here? Mini biography. Anywho, that was my. I just thought it was really interesting that while I was watching the show, I flipped over here and saw this what seemed to be a spoiler in plain sight. Right. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's move on to the actual recap of the show. And I think I don't know. I took some notes. I see you've got quite a few notes here, Jonathan and Roberto. Are we going to throw Jaime under the bus and let him do the recap this time?
Yeah, I think it's time.
All right. Okay, Jaime, off you go.
All right. Let's see how I can recap this. So it starts out really
with Star Trek.
It starts out really kind of moody, kind of like a horror movie, kind of scary on the Discovery. They've got random lieutenant or whatever, doing repairs, like the power looks like it's out sort of thing. And that person discovers Stamuts, who's, still looking like he's not himself, and he's cradling Culber's dead body. And of course they think, well, he must have done this, right? Like that's the only reasonable conclusion you could come to. Like he, in his euphoria and catatonic sort of manic sort of episode, he accidentally killed his husband. And then we switch over to the Mirror universe, the Mirror Discovery, where Captain Burnham, Michael Burnham, talks about the fact that the universe seems a little bit different here. Even the light is different, which is something people have picked up on as another sort of nugget for future theories related to other characters. But in either case, she encounters the Mirror universe version of Saru, who much like a girl, he also has no name, because apparently he's not worthy of one as an alien race in the Terran Empire that's all about humans, and he helps her bathe, and so they sort of have like a little moment in there. This sort of leads into, and I forget the order here, but this leads into a little bit of where both Michael Burnham and Saru, the Prime Universe Saru, are both holding back information. So they eventually are able to like communicate with each other because it's kind of not so suspicious, and they get a secure line. And Saru is holding back the fact that Culber is dead because Michael Burnham apparently is friendly enough with him that he doesn't want her to be distressed and about this state of things. And Michael Burnham is holding back the fact that she has met Mirror Saru, and man, his life sucks, right? Like she probably also doesn't want him to be distracted by, oh man, even in this other world, like my life's not that good sort of thing. And then we move on to a scene that will play into sort of like the ending part of this episode, where they're in an execution, and in this case they're going to use the transporter to execute can't remember who they said they were, rebels or something, I can't, or just people they don't like.
Yeah, people who are bad.
I can't remember.
Spoke good against their emperor, acted against their emperor.
Okay, that's why I got the impression they were like rebels or something, not just like, oh, Bob did a bad job sweeping up the floor today sort of thing.
Didn't bathe the captain well enough.
Yeah, so they execute them by beaming them out into space, and we see a little bit of like the bodies sort of like, freezing up sort of thing. And then we run into the spot where apparently they've discovered where the actual rebels are, the rebels led by what do they call him? The something wolf, the Firewolf.
The Firewolf, yeah. It's right in the notes. If you look on the notes there, Jaime.
Oh yeah, there we go. So they've heard about this Firewolf, and they're like, hey, we've got orders to just go blow this base up, just shoot it from space, nuke them from orbit. That's the only way to be sure, right? And Michael Burnham's like, well, no. Of course, her reasoning being that like she wants to find out like how the heck did a Klingon of all people like bring these disparate races together, and maybe we can learn something from this individual, this Firewolf, to see like how we can resolve our issues with the Klingons in the Prime Universe. But the reason she gives is like, well, we need to go find out tactical information, right? We can't just blow it up in space. We need to like see what's going on here, see what information we can get. So she and Tyler head down there to chill with these guys. They have a little bit of a standoff, but but she's able to convince, hey, like, I'm not here to kill you. I'm actually here to warn you that they're going to blow up your base, but, you know, you need to get the heck out of here. So they meet the mirror version of Vogue, who speaks English actually pretty well. So he talks about how the Klingons like lost part of their culture and faith, but they brought together in order to fight this common enemy. The only reason he's even going to like pay attention to her though is like, oh, we need to bring out the prophet. Let's see if the prophet can help us here, right? So they're sitting at a table with we now seen updated versions of the Tellarites and the Andorians. They bring out this prophet who turns out to be Mirror Sarek, who's rocking the beard, and he mind melds with Michael Burnham, and he sees lots of flashes of like her life, and it's particularly his, I guess, his prime version self of being with her. And so he's like, I trust her, which comes in pretty handy because Ash Tyler starts flipping out when he sees Vogue, and especially when he's speaking English and, you know, not staying true to the ways of Kalish. And with an SH. They fight. Yeah.
Yeah, and he starts yelling at him in Klingon too. Like, that's the other thing too. And Vogue, then this Vogue says, how do you know our ancient language, kind of thing.
Yeah. So they fight, but it ends up, you know, stopping before, like, Tyler kind of gets his butt handed to him by Vogue, and he was like about to slay him with a batleth, but they're like, no, stop. And he's like, what do you mean you stopped? Like, they came here, we're already suspicious of them, and here it is, they're actually attacking us. And Sarek's like, no, like, I don't know about him, but I trust Michael Burnham. And so they say, all right. If Sarek believes, then we'll stop here. And so we'll give you a little bit of this information so you can go back and, you know, keep your cover up, but we'll also start evacuating here. Meanwhile, Cadet Tilly and Saru are trying to heal Stamuts using the spores, because they're like, well, something about spores or fungus being like having that boundary between death and life, where there's sort of like less of a distinction. They make it just part of their life cycle. And so all right, well, let's use the spores. They spore them up. Stamets appears to have died, or we can tell. They call the medical folks, come in and try reviving.
Yeah, they interrupt the process, right? Yeah.
No, dead, but sort of weirdly, they like leave him. So like everybody's gone. This comes back into a later scene where Tilly's like, well, yeah, I'm so sorry, and you know, that tried bringing him back. He does come back here, and I'm going way off the notes here because I'm going way.
That's okay. That's fine. Yep.
And somewhere along the way, they Burnham confronts Tyler, like, dude, what the hell's going on? Like, why'd you flip out like that? And he confirms that he is Vogue, and we get like the actual last percentage of confirmation. We were 99% sure that it wasn't, you know, Klingon Bob. Now it's like 100% sure. They show us lots of graphic imagery of Vogue being turned into Tyler, or having bits of an existing Tyler scooped into him. It was slightly unclear from the cinematography to me.
Right. Yeah.
But either way, like, he's like, hey, yo, I killed Culber, which, whoops, if only Saru had told me, maybe I wouldn't be so shocked and surprised by this. And he tries to kill Michael Burnham, but thankfully Mirror Saru comes in and just like throws him across the way like he's just a doll. Thankfully, because, you know, she had seemed to show a little bit of kindness to him, even accidentally giving him the name Saru, just because of you know, her relationship with the Prime One. So they on the ISS Discovery, she ends up using Tyler as a ploy here, where I should have stated that somewhere along the ways they were trying to figure out how the heck are we going to get this information, this data disk about the Defiant who had come over from the Prime universe into the Mirror universe. Are we going to get that, you know, transmitted from the Senjo over to the Discovery without it being obvious? Like, they were able to do, like, you know, FaceTime calls. All right, whatever, that's not suspicious, but like sending a big encrypted file, that's probably going to set off alarms, right? So as part of this, since Tyler attacked, you know, ostensibly the captain of the Senjo, she says, oh, we're going to execute him, and guess what? They're going to use that transporter execution method. And she's like, no, let me do it. Like, I want to be the one, you know, who kills him by my own hand. And she beams him out into space, and thankfully the Discovery's around, and they beam him right back. And they say, oh, look, here's this little data disk in his pocket. So that's how they used his body, essentially. He's still alive, but they used his body as sort of a mule to get the data over there. We also see Stamets as he comes back, where he meets a Mirror Universe version of himself in the Sporeverse, and the Mirror Universe version seems to have not been surprised that he was there. It kind of almost seems like he was waiting for him. And then we see on the bridge, we see that the Rebel encampment is just like completely pummeled. Like, this entire planet just gets hosed by some mysterious ship that shows up, and they get a little ring on their FaceTime. They're like, yo, it's the Emperor. They want to talk to you. And it turns out to be the Emperor, Captain or Emperor Giorgio, on there saying, like, hey, what the hell? Why didn't you follow my commands right away? And oh, by the way, it's been a long since I've seen you, Michael. And that's sort of where we end.
Yes, and why don't you bow to your Empress? Or Emperor?
Yes.
Yeah. So interesting interesting plot hole, though. Like the one I was trying to go back to it. Maybe I should have gone back and watched it again. But so the fight that she has with Tyler in her quarters, where he tries to kill her after telling her that he's killed Culber, and that he's actually Volk, and she's ready to throw up in her mouth a little bit. They have this fight, and then the number one breaks in, and I've forgotten her name, but she breaks in and says, "We'll take him and we'll execute him right away." And Michael Burnham follows him almost immediately. So how did she tell Prime Saru, that he should beam somebody at this coordinate, unless they planned on maybe they were going to do like a mule drop at some point anyway, right? So and he was watching that coordinate of space, but I can't imagine, like, there was no time for her to explain to him what had happened and what went down, and that in fact Tyler is a bad guy and should be thrown into the brig, right? So because the other thing too was interesting on when they received Tyler on the good Discovery, or no, on Discovery, they say we're not going to execute him because we are still Starfleet, and so they throw him in the brig, and that's when Saru reveals that he's gone to get the little floppy disk of data that they've been trying to get to them, right? So, but did you guys notice that? Like, did it not seem odd to you timing wise? Like maybe a bad edit or something?
It certainly seems convenient from a dramatic standpoint that these things are set up, but I'd have to go rewatch to see if there was like the possibility of time. Like, I don't know if you wanted to straighten yourself up a little bit, because you've just been in a fight and she looks like she's pretty cleaned up by the time they go for the execution.
What I remember, she literally walks out of the room right after the other one. So I can't imagine how she would have had to had time to do a quick little FaceTime and with Saru, right? Jonathan, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, you're just being quiet.
Yep.
So what do you think? You probably have all kinds of theories. What do you think?
All kinds of theories. No, this was an exposition episode. I don't need theories in an exposition episode.
Right, okay.
we got our cake and we got to eat it. So
several pieces of cake actually.
Yeah, I mean, lots of lovely touches. Again, very enjoyable episode. I loved Sarek with the beard, looking very much like his son in the original Mirror Universe episode. That was fantastic. I think it was good call by Jaime last week. He said that, his odds were on Captain Georgiou to be the Emperor. I wasn't sure where they were going with that because they specifically used the male gender Emperor instead of Empress, so I didn't know if that's where they're going to go. I will say that that's an excellent turn of events, but I'm praying that it's not that she's supposed to be Hoshi's great granddaughter or some fool thing. I don't think they need to connect all the Asian actors together. I think she could just be Captain Georgiou. But I'm curious to see where they go with that. Obviously a complex relationship between Captain Georgiou and Michael Burnham. Obviously Burnham feels a lot of guilt over her captain's death, and interesting to see how that dynamic plays out now that we have this villainous, bloodthirsty ruler of the Terran Empire showing up. So I thought it was really cool. And
go ahead.
Lots of interesting possibilities too, with Stamuts meeting Mirror Stamuts too. I think it'll be interesting to watch Anthony Rapp play off of Anthony Rapp next week.
Right. Yeah, I kind of wondered if the Emperor and Michael Burnham had the same or similar backstory. Like in the very first episode, it's the two women walking together talking about how Georgiou sees Burnham being the captain at some point in the future. And that doesn't end up being because of all the nastiness, and they find the Klingons and blah blah blah, and she becomes the saboteur of the Federation or whatever they call her. But I wonder if this mirror Georgiou has the same relationship with the mirror Burnham, who's now missing in action, right? What happens when she comes back, right?
Yeah,
when the mirror Burnham comes back,
Well, I mean, I wonder if that's inevitable at this point. Can we talk about our captain of the USS Discovery and where we leave him in this episode? Because
he comes in and out. Yeah,
very interesting look on Captain Lorca's face when Emperor Philippa Georgiou shows up. He doesn't look surprised.
Oh, really?
I got a very he had kind of had. I mean, Jason Isaacs always looked like he's smirking, but he kind of seemed like he got sort of a half smirky kind of thing on his face. They cut right to his face when she shows up, and he's not like, oh my god, it's Captain Phil. He looks like he's like, yep, there you are. I knew it was you. I wonder if that's just another tell towards the fact that he's from this universe.
Right. And is that just a theory in general, or your theory, or?
Oh, I mean, I've seen people speculating on social about it too, but yeah, I hold to that theory. I think this has all been they set it up so well with all these little threads of saying that Lorca was a rebel who had gone against the Emperor, and then had Burnham go after him, but he disappeared, and all those threads, plus the behavior of Lorca in the Prime universe, plus them showing up here after he clearly did something while Stamuts was trying to jump them in the winter finale episode. I think all of that points towards this, confirming this theory that Lorca actually is the Lorca from this universe, and that his whole ploy was to try and, for some reason, go to the Prime universe and come back. Was it to bring the Discovery there? Was it to bring Michael Burnham there? That'll be an interesting little bit to sort of follow up. I'm pretty sold on the Lorca is Mirror Lorca theory, but I'm not as convinced as to why. I don't know what the motivation was.
So why would he 2 episodes ago or an episode ago, why would he show Michael Burnham and Saru the map that connects all the mirror universes together?
I think he's trying to throw him off the trail. I mean, he did legit. I mean, he may have jumped into our universe, or the Prime universe, I should say, by accident. We don't know the backstory. It could have been by accident. It could have been deliberately, but he didn't know how to get back.
Right.
We don't know the whole story. And again, it'll be fascinating to see how that plays out. If in fact this theory is true, I think there's a lot of evidence to point towards that theory. But what his motivation was it to get Discovery and come back? Was it to bring back Burnham? What was he trying to accomplish? What was his master plan for how he's going to overthrow the Emperor and become the Emperor himself?
Right, yeah.
You know,
and
again...
I was going to say, he did sort of throw off... why did he put the Stamuts through that first ordeal with the 133 jumps as well, right? That could have been part of the key to get him back or something.
Yeah, and we were saying, 15 episodes ago, we were talking about how, all evidence was pointing to the fact that Lorca is a bad guy. We were talking about how, maybe he was just making decisions based on being, must win the war kind of person. But I think the more that we get into this mirror universe and establishing this as part of the main storyline, again, I find it really hard to imagine that this wasn't all connected, that we weren't being shown a very dark person in Lorca because he's dark Lorca. He is mirror Lorca, which makes you wonder, is there another Lorca out there? Did the Lorca from our universe end up there?
Yeah, where's the good Lorca?
Yeah, where's the evil Burnham? Where's the Prime Lorca?
Well, maybe, and like you said, maybe he's brought Michael Burnham back since he lost Michael Burnham somehow. Maybe he dropped her in a volcano shaft or something. Yeah, and he had to bring the Prime Burnham back because she will have some sort of key to undoing the Emperor because of some prior relationship, right? So maybe the Emperor has a soft spot for Burnham, and because why is he insisting on her in particular in the Prime? If we want to call him the Prime Lorca, why is he insisting that Michael Burnham is the key to all this stuff, really, right? Because she's a baddie. She's supposed to be on her way to the Huskow for a life sentence, right? Yeah. So what is it about her that he's so attracted to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Burnham's a very accomplished officer. Maybe he thought he could manipulate her because of her past behavior or something. But again, you have to wonder if he's looking for an angle that he can work on the Emperor to try and unseat her and take over.
Right.
Any thoughts on that, Jaime?
Yeah, I think for a long time I've resisted the idea of Lorca being a mirror universe person. I think largely as backlash to the backlash from the fandom and from the interwebs, where because of the way that Lorca was acting, it was just an assumption like, oh, they don't act perfect, boom, must be a mirror universe person. That's the only way I can reconcile this in my head. And I was always like, well, maybe he's just like the bad admirals, like it just so happens he's on like the main ship that we know and love, and maybe he's it's a little bit to me like, well, in TNG and Deep Space Nine, when they needed to have the characters deal with like something unreasonable, it'd be like, oh, well, some admiral at Starfleet, either good or bad, is telling us to do something completely unreasonable, and the whole episode is about us trying to figure out how to work within the bounds of our orders, but yet also do the right thing. And
they're always disobeying the orders, it seems, on TOS and on this. They're always, in fact, Lorca does that too, because he disobeys his admiral's directives, right?
Yeah. Sorry, the admiral who questioned whether or not that was really him that he left to die. Yeah. Well, she says, you're not yourself. She actually says it when they're in bed together, right? You're not yourself.
Huh. Yeah, that's true. Where is she right now? She's in the sick bay on Discovery, right?
Well, I think they dropped her. No, they dropped her at the Starbase, I think they said.
Oh, okay. Right.
And so I know that Star Trek shows kind of always need this sort of thing. This is why folks get a little bent out of shape with Captain Janeway, because the writers still needed that, like, we have to do something completely unreasonable. It's like, well, but they're out there in the middle of nowhere and they can't talk to Starfleet. So somebody was like, well, I guess it's the captain who decides to make this unreasonable decision. I thought Discovery was using that same sort of thing where, all right, most people, if they've worked for long enough and had enough jobs, you've probably had this person, Captain Lorca, as like your manager. I can certainly name a couple. In my own head, I'm like, oh yeah, I've worked for this dude before. But now, after seeing multiple hints, like the relationship with Admiral Cornwell and some more of the hints, even within this episode with Burnham talking about, the light is different here, which sort of seems like it plays into Lorca's sort of like weird eye problem. And the smirk when Emperor Georgiou shows up, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty convinced. Like, you've got me on board. I'm like 95% sure that the Lorca that we know is a mirror universe person.
95%, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Tim, you want to put in a percentage for us?
No, I don't actually, because my trouble with this show is that as I was thinking about it as I watched it last week and the week before, is that I'm busy taking notes while I'm watching the show, so it kind of takes away from my ability to sort of enjoy the show, as it were, straight up, right?
You gotta watch it twice.
Yeah. I have there's so much stuff in my PVR right now, it's not funny. So I did manage to watch the last episode on the Thursday, because it replay it on Thursday, so after the podcast I get to watch it, enjoy it, and take it all in. But I don't know. I mean, like, you guys are, I don't know. I guess I'm the prime audience for these guys, because I just sort of follow along and go, okay, that's what we're doing now. Okay, nothing. I don't know that I haven't really bought into this theory, or even kind of really paid attention to about Lorca being a bad dude, or being an evil mirror universe guy. But yeah, I suppose it does have merit, Yeah. But yeah.
To be fair, I'd love to be wrong. I would love it if there was some twist in there that I didn't see, where they do say like, no, I'm
this
just
is
the guy
television after all.
Yeah.
They are gonna just go down the safe path, right? So
this is City Alpha 5. Oh, what?
Yeah. What? Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I think I'd be okay with them going either way. Either it's like, all right, it makes logical sense. He acted really weird, and so he's a mirror universe person. Or the original thing that I'd said, many episodes ago, that Lorca was just a broken person, and we've not seen that sort of like broken person sort of personality to this extreme on a Star Trek series.
Yeah, but a broken person who's in charge of a starship, spaceship. I mean, or what do we call these things, right? That seems implausible, right? Like, how could I mean, unless Starfleet is so broken that they would let somebody like that, exist on a ship, right?
But that's a theme,
notwithstanding Admiral Decker.
The whole thing, though, right? Like this whole show, like, look at all the characters from
they're all
Burnham
misfits, yeah.
To Burnham, to Lorca, to Saru, to Tyler, to even Detmer, the one with the sort of weird face appliance. All these characters have these like rather deep issues. They don't, there's no real like emblematic. There's no Jean-Luc Picard. There's no like clearly well-adjusted kind of person. They've all got a real layer of complexity to them, especially for characters that are sort of new to us. Like you can look at them, the way that in spite of his facial appliances, the way that Doug Jones is playing Saru, like the eyes, the mannerisms, you get a sense that he's conflicted and troubled and fighting his nature all the time. And I think that's the one thing I will say for this show is these actors have really gotten these characters down pretty fast. There's a lot to chew on with these guys.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I guess it's early enough in Starfleet's history that they haven't developed a proper HR strategy and been able to properly screen their employees and stuff like that, right?
They could use a Betazoid, they could use Tasha Yar, or what's her name, Lieutenant Troy on the bridge. Be like, no, you're gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. I'm empathically. She walk onto the bridge and be like, listen, you're all screwed up. I can tell from here. My Betazoid senses are going off. You guys are all messed up. You all need a break. Let's bring in the night crew.
Yeah, for sure. Let's all get some Earl Grey tea. Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to go on record as saying that the Firewolf might be one of the coolest nom de guerres that we've seen out of one of these shows. I would like henceforth to be known as the Firewolf.
The Firewolf, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's
why. So what is it about Firewolf as opposed to the Disco Queen or the Disco Crew?
I just there's just something about the imagery of a Firewolf. It just sounds so incredibly badass.
So it's so Game of Thrones. Come on.
Sure, why not? I'm still in.
Yeah.
I would have liked if they'd just been some sort of reference where it was like he had a red scar on his face. Like there was nothing. It was just like Firewolf. Sure, that's a thing.
He did seem kind of like a wuss, but then again, he was being played by Tyler, right? So as Klingons go, he wasn't very threatening, other than the fact that he was sort of in charge of everything, right? But
it's they do establish in that first episode that he's sort of runt-ish for a Klingon because T'Kuvma is supposed to be the big, huge, strapping, leader of men, and Volk was supposed to sort of be his adjunct.
Okay,
right?
so let's talk about Volk, who has no house, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is that about, right? So, let's just, another point, too, I want to just mention, so I watched After Trek, and as they introduced the show, they said both Volk and Tyler are on the show, meaning that the actor was on the show, but also Ted Sullivan was there, and he's a co-executive producer and sometimes writer on the show, and he did sort of say that what they kind of did was, and he was trying not to get fired when he was saying it, but they had, modified Volk to the point where he looked like a human, and then they had mapped Tyler's memories onto Volk so that he would be able to mask his identity, which is why, part of the reason why I think that Tyler sort of exhibits that sort of psychological, he looked like a character who had buried a history, like a denial of abuse or something. You know what I mean? Like how people do that, they bury these things under their subconsciousness, right? So that's his explanation was that's what the Klingons had done. But yeah, it's kind of odd that so now how does Volk fit into this whole story altogether? Because he appears on the ship in the first episode as just, hey, I'm a lighter skinned Klingon who has no house. His son of name of none or something like that. What do they call him? But
House of None, I think he says.
House of None, something like that. Yeah, which is a big deal in Klingon culture, at least in our Prime universe, right?
Or Son of None. What does he call himself?
Yeah, I think it's House of None, or something like that. Like the fact that he has no house. Well, he has no house. That's one thing for sure, and which is like completely dishonorable in Klingon lore, right? Because when he volunteers to be the torchbearer, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's a whole. I mean, so even the fact that this Klingon is on the Klingon ship, he right from the get go, he's an odd duck, right? So I wonder how that plays out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they reconcile this. So I had a question about so if they imprinted Tyler's memories on him, but they just adjusted his sort of organs and bones, is he still as strong as a Klingon, or is he just a human now?
No, I don't know. Well, he did seem to be pretty strong. He was,
Yeah, I mean, physically he seemed more sturdy than Michael Burnham, but then
we'd have to go back to the Harry Mudd episode to see, because at one point he just shows up in the prison cell and says, "Hey, I'm Ash Tyler," and they go, "Okay," and they must have, because I mean, Culber was saying in the last episode that they did scans on him, so he must have been someone who had been captured in the past.
So there must have been an actual Tyler at some point.
Yeah, like Jaime said, they scooped Volk into him, sort of thing, right? So
he couldn't have gotten into Starfleet if he wasn't imprinted on a Starfleet person that existed, right? So whether they just stole the guy's memories or they chopped out his brain bits and put them into this person or whatever.
Yeah, they did an awfully good job sewing him back up again too, because I didn't notice any scars.
He's a handsome converted Klingon.
Because you wouldn't notice. I mean, I guess he does. He must have scars from the torture and stuff like that, right? But I guess
Culber says that his insides are a mess, right? His bones have all been broken, his organs have all been messed around with. So clearly, superficially, he looks fine. Again, I think we saw him with his shirt off in bed with Bernham.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
he looked like he was scarless.
Yeah, the whole suspended. Maybe they transported him inside or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
or replicated him.
I think I just heard Bones McCoy rolling in his grave.
Yep.
Either way, I think this was the second great episode in a row. Lots of stuff going on. The Mirror Universe is a lot of fun. I don't know about you guys. I didn't buy the dead Stamuts thing for a second, especially as Jaime pointed out, when they're just like, well, he's dead. We better just leave his body where it's lying.
Yeah, I don't understand why the medical team left him there. Like, it was, again, dramatically convenient. And as shown on screen, I'm like, well, did they just decide, well, he's in a hermetically sealed environment, so he'll stay fresh, There's no air in there to make him decay. He'll be fine. We'll come back to this later when we're in the normal universe. Or they're going to, weekend at Bernie's him or something. But in my head, I filled in, there must have been a missing scene where they're like, all right, we're going to take him out. Until it's like, no, give me one last chance. Like, let me see if I can bring him back. It's obviously not going to hurt.
You've already broken him once.
Make it worse.
Yeah, exactly. Because she does talk about the fact that she says, this is a spore issue, and I'm the only one qualified to work on it, which is why Saru lets her give this a couple of tries. But at one point, she talks about the spores being the veins and muscles of the universe, or something like that. I vaguely remember that. So.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that was in an attempt to heal him, not he's died sort of recovery sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, and he does sort of start like I guess autonomically moving at one point, and she doesn't jump on the intercom and go, "Hey, get down here,"
Yeah, I thought it was a very funny scene between her and Doug Jones as Saru doing the I'm very impressed with you and your work, and she's like impressed enough to give me a recommendation to be an officer.
Not so fast. Yeah, exactly.
he's like, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like more and more every episode, more and more. Mary Wiseman is a delight. I think she's definitely a lot of the heart of the show and the wide-eyed innocence and everything like that. But she's definitely growing on me. I like her a lot.
Yeah, the other Mary was on After Trek 2, Mary Chifio, something like that. She's Mary the Chief. Yep. Yeah, Mary the Chief on Twitter is her handle. But so she was on talking about Laurel and their relationship, her relationship with Vogue, and so it was interesting to see two actors discussing that sort of stuff as well. There wasn't a whole lot of After Trek usually has a bunch of interesting things, but I guess they had a whole lot of what the hell just happened to talk about that they didn't go too far down the rabbit hole with other things, costume-wise or whatever. Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, so where we go from here? What do you think happens next? They've sewn up a lot of loose ends, and what
Well, hopefully now we get a little exposition as to that backstory about what actually happened to Mira Burnham when she went to go confront Lorca. Hopefully we'll get some details in the exposition when she interacts with the Emperor, and we'll get a little taste of what might have actually happened to that character. And I'm hoping that maybe we get from the reveal of that data disk you mentioned, that we'll get a little more insight into what happened with the Prime Universe Defiant and where that is and how that plays into this.
Well, let me say this about that. So there was a sneak peek on these After Trek shows. They always do a sneak peek of the show. So they did a little bit where Burnham and Lorca are in a shuttle on their way to see the Emperor, and she's got like an iPhone 7 there with the data on it, and it's all been redacted, but there are bits and pieces in between, and that sort of they've decrypted it on Discovery. I guess it sent her back an iPhone 7 with it on it, right? And she's sort of scrolling through it. And at one point, and I forget what they say to each other, but I can go back and watch it again. But she gives him a shot in the neck, like with a sort of like something to calm his nerves, so because obviously he's going to go and be tortured some more, And the one jokey comment on After Trek was, "Why didn't you give me that like 2 days ago?"
Yeah,
or maybe they did. I don't know. But so they gave him something to calm. But it was interesting. So they did show the data or the content that was on that little floppy drive that they take back. So, yeah.
I'm curious to see what they do with the. We haven't seen a Constitution class. No, maybe we saw one in the first episode. I can't remember the second episode of what what we're going to see from the Defiant and how they sort of bring something that we've seen in the past universe into this universe.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that all plays out. With are they going to need that ship to escape? How are they going to how's that work out? Do you guys think we're going to end up this season getting back out of the mirror universe, or do you think we're there for a while?
Yeah, my sister said this is like not after this episode, but after last episode, she said that she thought this was going to be Voyager all over again. Like, oh my God, it's Voyager all over again. They've thrown themselves 80 million light years away from wherever they are, right? So, which is what the plot for Voyager was. And of course, I guess she didn't realize that they were actually in the mirror universe at the time. But yeah, interesting. So I don't know. I think they may be here for a while. I mean, because this is the thing is like now that they're no longer in the Prime universe, they get to play around with the rules, right? Because now they've got all these nasty people. There's this whole everybody against the Terrans and the Terrans against everybody thing going on, right? And then how do the good Prime people work the system to get things to go the way they want, right? So
and they can mess with this universe too in a way that, because they were hemmed in as writers because of being a prequel series, here they can run hog wild. They could have a young Kirk or some, you could throw all kinds of, a really old Jonathan. Or no, I guess he's dead in that universe. I mean, you could do all kinds of weird storytelling tied into that, alt universe, pre-Star Trek original series kind of
maybe
stuff.
Maybe Tasha Yar will come back.
Yeah. You never know.
But yeah, no, I mean, and that's the sort of thing. So now again, it's kind of like the J.J. Abrams Spock coming back from the future and breaking the timeline, with the red matter or whatever it was called, and and basically Vulcan getting destroyed by the bad guy and just throwing the whole timeline off. And so now he's got this whole new Star Trek universe to play in, right? He doesn't have to worry about tromping on all the other Star Treks that came afterwards. And so now they've got this new mirror universe to play around in, right? And they're the good guys, but there's 400 of them on the ship, so they can put people in red shirts and just go off and have a good time, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens what happens with the Emperor and Michael Burnham and Lorca, because obviously they have history, right? In the mirror universe. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. Like what can they possibly do? They've done the big reveal. We know Michelle Yeoh is the Emperor, and now what, right? Maybe there'll be a little robot dog or something that'll come along at some point. Yeah. All right. So what else we got to talk about? What else is going on?
I didn't come up with any crazy lists this week. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like I let you guys down.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I could rant more about how we live in a world where Netflix is showing Black Lightning here next week, and I'm still irate about it.
Well, now that you mention that, let me tell you about my Blade Runner 2049 disc that showed up yesterday, right? I haven't opened it up yet, but so I'm like, it's got the digital copy. I'm like, hey man, I got a digital copy. This is cool, right? So I go to I figure like I don't even reach for the player. I just open up the thing and find the code to read this thing up, and it turns out to be an ultraviolet code.
Oh
right?
Yeah, ultraviolet.
So I go over to ultraviolet and I log in, and then I realize, I forgot it tied into Flickster, and then of course I go to Flickster, and then I realize the Flickster app no longer plays the content that I have on ultraviolet, because why would it, right? And then so I have to go get the Flickster video app now, which now is connected to my ultraviolet account, and then so I log into that, and then of course now there's the Flickster video app for the Mac that I can use. I'm like, okay, cool, let's try that, right? Of course, the thing that really irks me about the ultraviolet and the Flickster thing is it doesn't use AirPlay, so I can't AirPlay it to my Apple TV and watch it on my big screen.
Nice,
right? So, so
theoretically, you could put the player on your laptop.
Well, yeah, I can
AirPlay it from your laptop.
Well, except for the fact that it doesn't go full screen when you do that because reasons, right? Anyway, so because I did manage to AirPlay it from my phone to there, but of course then I've got all the phone, like because it's an iPhone 10, I've got the bars on the side and it doesn't fit the whole screen on the TV. Don't get me started. Anyway, so and then there's like this other thing called Vudu, VUDU, that I had to use to try and get it to play. It's like, where's my goddamn content, right? So the next time, like, note to self, next time I want to buy a movie, just buy it on iTunes and be happy with that, right? Because this whole ultraviolet crap has got to stop. Like, what's the point of giving us
4K copy if you do that anyways, right? Like,
am I? And what can I play it on? So there's no Flickster app for the Apple TV.
No. I'm saying if you buy it off of iTunes, you get the 4K version, which you can play on your Apple TV that's hooked up to your 4K TV, so you're off to the races anyways.
Yeah, because I looked at that as soon as I saw it. I thought, well, why didn't I just buy it on iTunes? And I go and look at the price and compare it to the disc price to the. I mean, the advantage of the Blu-ray is I can hand you the Blu-ray and you can watch it on your TV, right? I can't do that with my Apple TV or my iTunes version.
Yeah, I went through this exact same exercise at Christmas time. I got a couple of films for Christmas, and then I picked up a couple in Boxing Day sales and was like, oh, cool, digital copies. Oh, this one's for iTunes. Awesome. This one's for Flickster. Oh, wait, I have Flickster. Okay, now, I already have Flickster Video, so I was one step ahead, but I didn't have a Vudu account. I'm like, okay, what the hell is Vudu? Like affiliated with Walmart or something? Like, I don't even know.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Like, why do we have to log into 3 different accounts to watch the same content? Like, this is stupid, right? Stupid with 2 O's.
So what I think Tim ran into is I think there's been some consolidation after there was this like explosion of like multiple digital copy sort of services. I think what I vaguely remember was that the industry, or at least some players in the industry, were trying to consolidate around something called, I think it was Movies Anywhere. Don't quote me on that because I could be wrong. Where it was like, even the App Store and Google Play and all these other ones, you can just sort of like register and be like, I own this thing on iTunes, so therefore if I'm like on an Android device, all right, Google Play will let me have this too. So that's my understanding of where it's going. It doesn't help now, of course, but I think that's what's happening.
So I'm not familiar with that service, and as a person who has a lot of that content, that would be very handy. So do you have to purchase this service, this Movies Anywhere?
anymore? I don't think so. The way I remember the news article talking about it was that it was more of like a coalition or an agreement where you sign up for an account. So again, you need like another account.
Oh Lord!
But you would not purchase. It would be like, oh, I purchased this. I purchased Blade Runner 2049 on iTunes, and they recognize the fact that I have done that. It's all registered, and so if I move to like an Android device or something, I can still get free access. Well, I mean, I've already paid for it on one service, but it's like pay for it once, view it anywhere sort of concept. So you wouldn't have to re-buy it again on Google Play or Amazon.
That's an excellent notion, but only if Movies Anywhere has an app that I can use on my Apple TV so that I can watch all my Google Play, Amazon Movie, Vudu, Flickster content.
Right. I've not tried this myself, so I don't know. This is only like a couple months old, if that.
How can I do this? Anyway, yeah. Oh yeah, let's move to picks. You guys.
I make our picks, and we'll.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan, you got a pick there. Why don't you go first?
Okay. So my pick for this week is a video that went up on YouTube last week that I'm looking forward to sitting down with. It's a fan film based on the Harry Potter universe. It's called Voldemort: Origins of the Heir. It's an English language Italian fan film, and unofficial, of course, as fan films are. They posted this thing, and it's got its production value looks pretty decent. I had a look through it. I skimmed through it, and I read a couple of online pieces that said, yeah, totally worth a watch. It's about an hour long. It's conceived as a prequel to the Harry Potter films set in the life of Tom Riddle becoming Voldemort, and a character that is sort of tracking him, trying to establish whether or not he's a murderer connected to this case. It's an Italian cast, but it's done in English. And yeah, it looks kind of neat. You can watch it on YouTube. We'll put the link up in the show notes. Yeah, it just looks like it could be sort of a fun little digression. I am not a huge fan of fan films. I've seen some good ones. I've seen some awful ones. I know Tim has followed some of the Star Trek ones. But this looks pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh wow, sounds like it's pretty popular then.
Yeah. Although I think with the litigious nature of society, I think it's obviously they're guarding that franchise pretty closely. Warner Brothers obviously has invested a few bucks and made several $billion off of that franchise. So I think people might not be too willing to get involved. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, they spent 15,000 euros on making this picture, this unofficial fan film. So that's pretty low value, and I guess if people are willing to throw the money into it, cool.
Yeah, it's a little surprising. I'm a little surprised that they haven't done more with that universe, where it seems like there's still a lot of fan fervor and a lot of interest in it.
Anyway, so a friend of mine posted on Facebook, a lady friend of mine, and I just want to get your opinion on this film. But somebody's gone through and done a cut of The Last Jedi where they cut all of the women out of it.
Yeah, I read that today.
What do you think about that? That's kind of weird, penisy, right?
Yeah, that's I can't even rationalize how somebody thinks that way. I just I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, it's
like cutting out Jar Jar Binks in a sense, but very sexist, right?
Yeah, at least I don't necessarily agree with like I have seen the cut of the Phantom Menace without Jar Jar.
Yeah,
and it still makes enough sense. This seems more like a political statement and a very sexist one at that, where like the movie can't possibly make sense without the very critical women characters.
Like the lead of the movie.
Yeah.
So Luke's just talking to himself the whole time.
Yeah, and Ben, what's his name as well? Kylo Ren, right?
Yeah, like it's like it's full of a bunch of people who are hearing voices in their heads. Like I don't get it.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty dopey. I did see a piece, and I can't remember the exact details this week, but I did. It was an interesting one where they were talking about the fact that between Wonder Woman and Star Wars, and I can't remember what the third picture was. It was 3 films that were all with female leads, and they said that it was the first time since they started tracking the box office totals that all 3 of the top grossing movies were all headlined by women.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
And
interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's interesting, this whole sort of unwritten rules thing. George was on Q talking about, George Stroumboulopoulos was on Q talking about Dolores O'Riordan, who just passed away. And he was saying that back when the Cranberries came along, there was an unwritten rule with the program directors not to play 2 songs by women in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Jeez.
that's Beauty and the Beast. That was the other one. Beauty and the Beast was the other because Emma Watson.
Right. Okay, cool. So what were the three movies?
Wonder Woman.
Right. Oh, okay.
Star Wars: The Last Jedi and Beauty and the Beast. And I think we're talking about the United States specifically. I think that was the highest grossing movies of the year for the United States.
Oh, I see the three. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
But I mean, obviously the lead of all three of those movies is a woman, and that's an excellent milestone and something we should pay attention to. Hopefully Hollywood actually pays attention and
I don't know.
make sure that we see a little bit more of that. I mean, obviously they're fast tracking Wonder Woman for a part 2, but beyond that, hopefully we'll see more female main roles. And I think with Patty Jenkins doing such a kick-ass job on Wonder Woman, maybe we'll see a few more of them behind the camera too.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that in the last 50 years we've made progress with the position of women in society, and then somebody gets elected and sets it all back.
Well,
backwards.
And here's my call for the next one. How about a woman of color? Like let's up it a notch. Can we aim a little higher?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's maybe why they were sort of saying Oprah, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean for starring in these movies, it's nice that it's three women, and that's a huge, excellent milestone. But let's maybe take it up a notch and have a few more people of color represented, and women of color particularly.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So we should do Jaime's pick before my internet blows up again, which is what I think the problem was.
Yeah. So my pick, unfortunately, so I completely forgot about the fact that you were unable to see this in Canada, but I saw the Black Lightning premiere on the CW this week.
Oh wow, really?
So maybe we can talk about it a little bit more next week, I guess.
Jonathan fires up his little dark internet.
I'm gonna excuse me. I need to go on Twitter for a minute. Excuse me a minute.
Yeah.
I like the premiere. I like the setup that they have for it. It's a very different kind of feel than the other CW shows. As I've said on the show before, I'm a fan of the Supergirl series. This definitely has some moments where it feels CW-y, kind of like the other Arrowverse ones, but this definitely has its own flavor to it. And the setup of having a character who has been a superhero before and given it up since, and dealing with a lot of race-related undertones and sometimes explicit overtones is kind of interesting. So I'm very interested to see how they move forward with this, because the premiere is actually pretty solid. It's pretty tight. It's it fit within a normal 1 hour, so it must be about 45 minutes worth of content given commercials and everything. So I'd say if you can, check it out, and we'll probably talk about this at least a little bit at some point in the future.
So if we can check it out, I wonder how we're going to do that, Jonathan.
So I think you guys are getting it, right? Just delay.
Yes,
maybe.
I will definitely wait till next week when it is on Netflix here in Canada.
Yeah,
that is what I intend to do.
Yeah. This story needs sticking to it.
Yeah. I need to go read up a little bit more about the character. I'm only vaguely familiar with Black Lightning. I'm definitely cognizant of the fact that it's a character that comes out of the blaxploitation era, probably of like the 60s, 70s, like Luke Cage and on the movie side, Shaft. But it still has some of that heritage, but they seem to have modernized it quite a bit. So it seems rather appropriate for modern audiences.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've read a lot of positive reviews. It's definitely something I'm going to watch. And the character had a really nice renaissance in the early 2000s. They sort of brought him in, and he became a member of the Justice League again. He lost the 1970s afro and went with the more modern Michael Jordan shaved head look. And they made him into a really badass character. But they did very similar thing to what I believe they're doing in the show, which is that they made him a grown man. He's not a young man in his 20s. He's supposed to be an established adult in his 30s at least, if not 40s. He's supposed to have, daughters. He's had a life. He's got life experience. He's, grounded in that way. And that was somewhat refreshing in that, we've had a lot of bad, angry black characters over the years in comic books that are sort of superficial and a little one-dimensional. It was nice to have him portrayed as a character of maturity and depth and wisdom and experience, and that played really well in the comic books. Jeff Johns did a nice run on Justice League starring him that I really enjoyed, and I'm hoping that that's what the series will be, is that same portrayal of an experienced character, who's not just oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, because we've seen the ingenue superhero superhero story so many times over again, but the I'm dragged back into superherodom is something that hasn't been done well. So,
right. And I just looked this up because I was like, was he Black Vulcan on Super Friends? And Black Vulcan, apparently, according to Wikipedia here, was a made-up hero for the show because they could not use Black Lightning due to some sort of dispute between DC and Black Lightning's creator, Tony Isabella. Yeah. So that's about as close as familiarity as I had of like, oh, they probably just like renamed it so it seemed a little less weird.
Next year on CW, Apache Chief.
Yeah, and the samurai guy, whoever that dude was, I can't remember that character's name.
I think it was just called Samurai. Because why go all the way out to get a name when you could just call him Samurai?
Yeah, it's so of that time period to be like, there's a black superhero. We got to name him Black something, like Black Lightning, Black Panther. I'm like, well, that seems a little racist. I mean, you don't have like Barry Allen, the White Flash. I'm like, that actually is a little bit more on brand. There's no Black Lightning, but there are White Flashes.
Yeah. Personally, I'm looking forward to the Gleek and the Wonder Twins CW show that's going to eventually come up with Gleek, the super monkey, and
right.
If they're going to go all in.
Right.
All right. Well, we got to wrap it up because I probably have to reboot my Mac. Hey, Jaime, if people want to find you on the interwebs, where would they look?
I'm on Twitter as @DevWithTheHair.
All right. And Jonathan, if people want to find you up,
they want to find me up, they can find me on Twitter as @JPK News.
All right. Okay. And as I said before, my name is Timitra, TIMMITRA on the Twitter machine is the way to get a hold of me. And until next week, we'll see you in the future.
Bye.
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 If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spockcast website at spockcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter @SpockCast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpockcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spockcast. You can find details on how to help us out on our website at spockcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
Now, who's got a hammer?
All right, so here's your useless information for the night.
Okay.
The city of Toronto has released its list of licensed dog names. Every single dog in the entire city by name.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So here's your question, Tim. How many dogs named Macintosh are there in the city of Toronto?
147.
There are 2.
You're kidding me.
In the entire city of Toronto, there are 2.
Wow,
and
really?
You are the proud owner of one of them.
Wow. Huh. He's on the couch. He was on the couch. So, what's the number one name?
Number one name for dogs in the city of Toronto is Charlie.
Charlie.
792 dogs named Charlie in the city of Toronto.
Wait, so how many names are on this list?
Let's see. I got the Excel.
I think the dog catcher's got some work ahead of him.
I got the Excel file. So this is, it has a full list of names. I don't know if it has a full list of, because they're by number. Let's see. There are 11,347 names, but then there are hundreds of different names that are used multiple times. So
I see. So what's the top 5 names?
Top 5 names: Charlie, Bella, Max, Molly, and Buddy.
Buddy. Okay. And how many Kirby's are there?
There are 24 Kirby's.
Wow. Spelt with a K like yours?
Spelt with a K like ours. Yep. 24.
And how many Poyos?
You know what? I haven't got that far down on the list yet.
I can imagine there's too many.
I'll put that in
Poyos.
I'll put that in next week's corrections. I haven't had time to look. I just downloaded the list before we went on the air, so I did not have a chance to get down to the Poyos. But if I had to guess, not a lot. Let's see. I'm going to skip ahead because it's all done alphabetically. I'm going to skip ahead down to the very low numbers and see if I can.
Oh, like they have the name and then they have the number beside it.
Yep.
Or what I mean, or they have the top names.
It's done numerically, but then numerically and alphabetically. So you do the number and then you do it gives you the name and then the alphabet.
Where did you get this list from?
Believe it or not, this is from the city of Toronto.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There is actually a list of cat names also, if anyone really cares.
Yeah. So what's cat name? How many pixels were there?
You know what? I knew you were going to do this to me. I did not download the cat names. Here we go.
Okay, don't worry.
I'm downloading it right now. There we go. It's going to take like 6 seconds. There we go. It's done. Cat names. Number 1 cat name, Charlie.
Oh my God.
Is this like a Canadian thing? Like, was there like a famous Charlie in Toronto?
Number 2 cat name.
Like a Charles de Gaulle equivalent?
Molly. Max, Bella, Smokey, and Tiger.
The same name for the cats and the dogs?
Number 15 at 95 cats named No Name.
Oh, really?
So there are
think about this, like, how many
cats in
people...
the city of Toronto whose name is Cat.
Well, so wait a minute. You're supposed to, like, I know and people license their dogs because they're obvious, right? But I don't think people license their cats, even though they're supposed to.
In Mississauga,
right?
You are obliged to license your cat. We have a license.
We are obliged to do it here in Toronto, but I'm pretty sure most people don't.
Yeah, I would say that is probably accurate for most people here. Unfortunately, the person whose responsibility is to go apparently door to door, knocking around to see if they can find any would-be suckers who have to pay this cat tax. Happened to pop by when my wife was out in the yard one day a few years ago and said, "Do you guys have any cats?" And she didn't give it a second thought and said, "Yeah, we have 2." And they said, "Great, here's the bill." So
nice.
The 2 cats that I didn't want living in my house, they got cat taxed, and
nice.
So we continue to pay for the one that is still with us,
still around. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am going way down on this list. I can't imagine. Did you pay your cat tax? Because that's the only way that Pixel's name is going to be on here.
What cat?
Yes. I mean, if you had a cat and you wanted to pay your cat tax, because
I suppose they could technically go back and retroactively, subpoena the veterinarian records, the fact that I had one, taken care of in the summer. So
you don't know. Maybe your wife got busted paying the cat tax without you knowing about it either.
Put little cement booties on them, and yeah. No,
there are in fact no Pixels on the list.
Really,
not one.
Wow.
So you had an original name clearly.
So he didn't exist. So it doesn't. He's a work of fiction. He was the cat in Heinlein stories. Anyway, I'm curious though. What was I curious about?
Okay, best.
Oh, how many dogs named Vector?
Vector. Oh, that's a good one. I'll have to look at.
Yeah, that was Mac's name was going to be Vector, but I got outvoted.
Okay, here's some of the highlight names because this is awesome. This is the folks at indie88.com did this earlier. Some of the best names: Baba Ganoush.
So here you have to imagine though, you're going to be Carol said when we named Mac, she sort of said, "Yeah, you're going to be standing at the top of the park going, Mac, come." So like I wanted to call him Ravi because we got him the day Ravi Shankar died, right? But can you imagine?
Ravi,
Ravi,
okay,
come.
Fat Assassin.
Fat for short, right? Or ass for short.
Yes, that's right. Stevie Licks.
Yeah, of course.
Muttley Crew.
Muttley Crew, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There are 5 dogs named Burger, 2 dogs named Hamburger.
Right. And any bulldogs named Pot Roast?
Yeah. There's 1 dog named Raptor, 3 dogs named Drake, 4 dogs named Norm, and 1 dog literally named #6IX. The 6.
The 6.
Oh, the 6.
No dogs named Vince Carter.
No, apparently not.
He's not popular anymore. Yeah.
There's Vince 2 dogs named Luke Skywalker.
Of course, yeah.
1 named Art Vandelay
from Seinfeld.
Art Vandelay, and Particle, Entropy, and Pepsi King. Pepsi King. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some people are getting really inventive with their dog names, but yeah. So that was a good list. Thank you for the good folks at indie88.com.
Right.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But you can get the complete list of, and you can get it for all years past too. You can get the 2016, 15, 14, 13, 12 lists from Toronto.ca, which is a lot of fun to go through.
Well, I knew I paid my dog license for a reason. Now I know why, right?
So that they can make these lists.
Yeah,
clearly.
Yeah. What else do they do with them?
I didn't see a full total though. I didn't see what the grand total of.
Well, I mean, because what's the population of Toronto? It's like almost 3 million people, right?
Yeah, it's way up there.
So it's got to be like more. Like they say, there's more cats than people.
Yeah, but your city is overrun with wildcats also.
Yes, that's true.
In Mississauga, you
but all of our dogs are licensed though.
But yeah, and some people don't choose to license their cats, which I've heard is a real problem in your city.
Yeah, I've heard of that too. Yeah. On that note, I think we should go. In fact, we have to do another podcast, so we do have to go.
All right.
Talk to you guys later.
Right.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Tonight in Arkansas, there's a mother tucking in her daughter and turning off the light. A business owner is burning the midnight oil. An at-home dinner date is plating up possibility. And it's all happening under one roof. How? The power of a conversation, like the one John from Integrity Solutions had with First Horizon Bank about his vision for a sustainable mixed-use building. Now it's not just words, it's life. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/John. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.